Today, our conversation is with Dawn Varley. Dawn is the town clerk in Whitman, and she's here to talk to us first about a little bit about early voting and also talk with us about the upcoming elections, what you need to keep in mind if you are going to be a voter. Dawn, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So here we are. We're doing this conversation the day of the start of early voting, are we not?
We are.
So what is it like to, this isn't your first time doing early voting, right?
No, no. It is, they started it in actually 2016 for state elections. And then when COVID came, they started doing it for, with the presidential year. They did it all the elections in the presidential year, and they left it up to the select board to decide if they wanted to do it for the municipal election. And they did do, we did do it for that as well. And then now they just signed, or the Governor Baker signed, a few months ago, the Votes Act, which is now making it a permanent fixture in our election world here.
What is it like in regards to early voting, absentee voting? Do folks understand what you go through as a town clerk and what your staff goes through to get ready for early voting and for, the primary?
I'll be honest with you, I don't believe that the people who actually voted the Votes Act didn't know what we go through, even the governor or any of them. I don't think that's what they're not concerned with what it does to offices. They're making voting more available to the public. And there are actually a couple different facets that I want to say to this, because there is early vote by mail, which is something totally different than early voting in person.
Right.
And timelines are different for everything, which kind of makes it a little bit more different. And then you've got absentee voting, which is something another. So there's like three types of voting and different envelopes, different procedures and policies that you have to take for, you have an AV for absentee voter, you have an EV, and they all have different envelopes, AV, EV, and it's, you end up, we color code in here, and I use totes and tubs to keep everything looking. You really have to be an organized person. Sometimes they roll their eyes in my office because I'm very, goes from this tote, and then they did the mass mailing to everybody to early vote by mail. So that was a huge thing, and they could pick both, all elections, just one election. One of the problems with that is, I understand why they did it and all that, it's just there's so many people who don't understand what the pressure that it puts on our office. And, and something has to give. There's something that, you're putting all this excess work, and people think, oh, it's only for a short time, but there's not. There's a whole process that leads up to this and a whole process that is after this. These records have to be stored and kept, and, there's planning, and there's, hiring employees, and they have to take care of it and making sure, we have the machines are ready. And in the meantime, we're still doing all the normal preparations for the actual election on the 6th of September. So it's just, there's so many things going on. My office, it looks like a hurricane went through here or whatever. Not really. It's pretty organized, but it is a lot of stress. Not just me, but every town clerk. So no matter what town you're from, it's every town clerk's going through. There's a couple town clerks have just quit recently. It happened in 2020. A lot of town clerks that were senior retired because this process is so demanding. And the hours are so demanding. Yeah, I love it. I'm not like talking bad about it. It's just, you really got to be organized. So as far as, let me tell you real quick, go over the difference. So an absentee voter is somebody there's three reasons to absentee vote. And that is for religious reasons, for sick, if you're disabled, you can't come in, or if you're going to be out of town. We don't have police that go knocking at your door to see if you're in your home or not. Or sometimes people can say, I'm going to be out of town because I have a wedding and happen to get home within the time frame. But, it's somebody who assumes that they're not going to be able to make it to a town election. And that is punishable by fine. You're signing an affirmation, you're saying that you're not going to be here. I think it's a $10,000 fine. It's on the application, but neither here nor there. Then you have early vote by mail. So I cannot accept any more applications after Monday, the 29th, whether it be absentee voting applications or early voting applications. So after Monday at 5 p.m., because all things stop at 5 p.m., I cannot accept any more by mail applications. But so that's the by mail process. If we have them in-house, then we mail them out, of course. But that gives us a little bit of time to get organized as well for the actual election. But in the meantime, we still have early voting in person. So that, like you said, started today. So if somebody came in yesterday or the day before, even though, you know, we would have had to have mailed them a ballot, that would have been the only way. They couldn't early vote prior to today. I set my hours to be normal office hours. I figured that's the best for the town, easiest to keep track of for my office as well. So it's our normal and office hours. And we are required on the weekend to have 6 hours of early voting. I did in the past do hours on Sunday. I found that to be almost inhumane, you know, for my workers and stuff. You know, we all need a day of rest, especially during this. So we're not going to do early voting on Sundays. That was really too much. You know, I tried to keep everybody happy, but it's just too much. We need one day. So then Friday, the 2nd of September will be the last day that you can early vote in person until 4:00 p.m. And after that, we'll be doing what's called an early vote. Early ballot processing on Saturday. So we will be working Saturday. So it's posted as a meeting. Anybody's welcome to come and view it. And we put the ballots in. They don't get tallied. We know nothing about, you know, how many votes were cast. You know, well, we'd know how many ballots we put in, but we don't know any results. Those results, all that stuff stays in those. I have 2 spam machines. And then on September 6th, I wheel them up. And that's when we get the tallies from them. And it worked well because on election day, the ballots are folded, the EV and the AV ballots are folded. So it would cause a lot of jams on my machines on election day. So by us doing this, it works well. And they're not, my poll workers are not inundated with trying to put machine ballots in the machines from the AV and the EVs. So sometimes people say, oh, I see your poll workers putting in ballots. Well, that's what it is. The ballots got to get in the machines. And the people have made that decision to not do it themselves. So that's who does it. The poll workers, that's who does it. So I do love the early ballot processing because it alleviates. We still have some. So any ballot that we receive after the 2nd has to go to the polls, and they do it like they always did it before. But it's still the same checking process, but we do it personally. The voters doesn't do it. They've already, you know, everything's sealed and everything, but we have to go up and check them in and open the ballot and put them in the machines. And, you know, people always are like, you know, you see my ballot, but you don't, trust me, by then you don't care. You end up, it's like an assembly line. You have somebody just slicing them, and then you have somebody pulling out the ballots, you know, so you don't, trust me, you don't even, you know, you don't know. So
my question, when we talk about early voting, you will also have a similar process for the general election, right? Will there be early voting prior to the November general election?
yes,
Same process basically.
Yes, except for the time. I haven't set the times yet. It'll be very similar to what we're going through now. However, it's a longer period, and I can tell you when it's going to start. And I'm going to cheat here because
Sure.
I have to use my cheaters. I do have a potential. So that is starting October 22nd. That's the Saturday, and it'll probably be very similar to the hours that we're doing. And then that runs through till Friday, November 4th. So it's basically 2 weeks of early voting, whereas the primary was the 1 week. So yeah, and you know, we get a lot of those cards. And so this is another thing too, because people some people are angry when they get the cards that ask them if they want to early vote. And, you know, we've got a lot of comments, and It's not us mailing them. It's the state. It's a state law. It's part of this Votes Act. Reach out to your state rep, reach out to your state senator and tell them if you don't like it. I mean, they're the people who voted for this, and they mail them out to every registered voter. And if you happen to rip yours up and be like, I hate this, and throw it away, come November, you're going to get another one. And you're going to be angrier again. So we're expecting the same, phone calls, but we can't control that. We can't. And they'll write right on there. They'll send theirs back and they'll be like, I don't want to do this, but I can't stop that. I can't,
You have no control. You have no control over it.
No. So, and then some we're a small town and we do small town things. And the ones that we got that people were unenrolled or independent, whatever you want to call it, did not pick a party ballot. We personally called them and then we sent them a letter. By law, we didn't have to do anything. We could have just rejected it but like I said, we are a small town and I like to keep that as much as I can with stuff like this. So we've added a little extra work, but I think it's the fair thing to do.
What's important for folks who are coming to early vote? What is it important for them to bring for information or be prepared to do when they are doing this coming week?
So early voting's just like regular voting. You don't need an ID. I know a lot of people would like to have IDs. Again, that's not my choice. The only people that would need to have an ID so we're connected with Social Security and we're connected with the Registry of Motor Vehicles. And if somebody registered to vote, whether it be online, in person, and they didn't give us the valid information it does a name search and it compares either the driver's license number or the Social Security number to the name and the date of birth. And if that doesn't match, they do get a letter that says you are a registered voter, but you need to bring ID to the polls. And my poll workers know because it says to them, this person needs to show ID. So those are the only people, and there are very few. I mean, we probably have 10, if that, in Whitman that would possibly need to show ID. And in the ID, the thing about that is it could be anything. It doesn't necessarily need to be a photo ID. They could go get the registration of their car out of their car. It just has to have that person's name and the address that they're trying to vote at. It can't be an address. And then we have to document what was shown and things like that. Elections are a funny creature, if you want to challenge a ballot, anybody can challenge a ballot. And I know this is getting a little deep, but we've had challenged ballots, and you can't just challenge a ballot because you don't like the person in front of you, or it's your neighbor, you have a gripe with them or something. You have to have a valid reason. And what happens with a challenge ballot, it has to happen at the check-in. That's why sometimes we have observers. People don't like observers, but observers do things like that. And they also keep track and then they get back to their campaigns and they tell them who hasn't voted. But basically, anybody can challenge a ballot. It has to be a check-in. The voter, you have to get the warden, and they write down the voter on the back of the ballot. You write down the name of the voter, the name of the challenger, and the reason that it's challenged. They could say, I know they live in Brockton because whatever. It has to be a valid reason. The thing that's funny about this whole challenge thing is the ballot still gets cast and goes through the machine and gets counted. The only time that challenged ballot would matter would be in a recount. So that's kind of I always thought that was fun. Like that's kind of funny how that happens, so yeah.
So my next and probably one of my final questions is some folks are by nature might procrastinate a bit. Mm-hmm. Is it too late to register to vote? I know it's probably way too late to register for the primary, but is it too late to vote for the general election?
Well, you are wrong. How about that? In the Votes Act, they made it so that voter registration is now 10 days before the election. So that's where today is pretty tricky because you can actually register to vote today and vote today. And that kind of makes it a little bit more challenging for our office too. And because those things have to be done right away so that somebody can't register to vote in Whitman and then register to vote in Hanson all in one day. So the state's taken some precautions for that. And we know to take certain precautions. We scan the ballots every hour, that come in, and if somebody registers to vote, it gets processed right away, things like that. So there are, I mean, anybody can, they try to figure it out hard enough. There are probably loopholes. I don't know them, but we've tried everything in our power, but no. So it's now 10 days before. So technically our office closes at 5. So they have till 5 o'clock today to register to vote in person. You don't necessarily, so somebody from Brockton could register to vote in Whitman. Somebody from down the Cape Falmouth could register to vote in Whitman. It doesn't matter. You can go to any town hall and register to vote today for your community. So if you happen to be working and you're like, oh, darn. But you can also register to vote online until 11:59 tonight. Even though we close at 7, the portal to register to vote is 11:59 tonight. And that's at www.registertovotema.com. And it is a valid site. I know .coms people get a little leery about, but if you Google Secretary of the Commonwealth, I mean, you can go to elections. That's a great website. You can track your ballot. So if you did an online, a mail-in ballot, you can actually apply online for a absentee ballot. For early voting ballot now, we have a portal that they use. Not too many people do that, but they do have a place online. So you can you don't have to do the by mail. You don't have to do the in-person early voting. You can just go to the Secretary of Commonwealth. But it's actually a great site, and it's very user-friendly, not even for this election. You can check your party status. You can make sure, where do I vote? There are many, many different things, so. And then we also have, I just want to throw this out there for our people who don't live in this country. We have UOCAVAs. They're, and I forget what the letters stand for, but it's uniformed overseas citizens. That's the beginning of it. Anyways, they're military, probably mainly military or families of military. Okay. So they vote electronically by email. And they have to send me an FEAP, a federal voter assist thing. They send me all the paperwork, and they sign an affidavit that they know that their ballot is not secret because it comes via email. So I will see how they vote, and those get counted separately too. So we have a few of those, and but it's great that I was here on the day when they didn't have that, and military people they really didn't get chances and opportunities to vote because it would take so long for the ballots to get mailed back and forth. So I think it's a great thing, and it's way easier. And I like I said, I help anybody out, no matter who it is. We try to help, not just me, but my office. That's one of my main strong things here, I think.
Anything that we haven't mentioned in closing as we wrap up this special segment?
I was trying to think. I was going to say something, and I had so many things going on, and in life like everybody else. But come and early vote. Come watch, come see. Just the building's open. You'll know the flags are out. We have flags. We have, we're here for a reason. We are, just so you know, as far as COVID, because I know that is still a concern for people. And it's been, it's not like it used to be, but we do still provide PPE for people. We have masks, we have gloves, we have sanitizer. Our markers aren't in the booth. We are still sanitizing. I still think we should take a few of the easier approaches to keep people safe as safe as we can, or give them the opportunity themselves to. I test every day. Sometimes I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know, but we test, most of us in here test every day, and we make sure, that we're healthy. I don't want to, I could never, I would live with myself if I got somebody sick or, yeah. And the other thing is no checkout. It wasn't at the annual. You won't see this is on September 6th. So the actual election is on September 6th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And the results will be read pretty much like right after. We have a few, it'll take a little extra because of the EVs. We have to combine the totals and stuff, but I have to pull those tapes. So It'll be maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes or so. I'll read the results for those who want to be here for that. What was I going to say about that? I totally forgot what I was going to say, but isn't that awful, right?
In regards to voting day itself,
Yeah, oh yeah, no checkout. That's what I was going to say. So we didn't have it in May, and we're not going to have it anymore. That's one thing that they allowed us to get rid of was checkout, and it worked. I wanted to try it with a town election because it's a little bit smaller and stuff, and it worked out well. But we do now have like a ballot box attendant who makes sure, because the biggest thing is when somebody comes down the aisle, is making sure they put the ballot in the right precinct. If there's a line at their ballot, people, would be like, oh, I'll go put it over here, but you can't, because that really, it's checks and balances at the end of the night here in every town. We're not county run. We're run by each town clerk. Our ballots, we give them so many. If we have to give them more, they add it to their totals. And at the end of the night, every ballot has to be accounted for, whether it's a spoiled ballot. That's if a voter makes a mistake and they want another option, another chance to vote. That ballot has to be accounted for. We have, tally sheets. Every vote has to be, accounted for, whether they're put in the side compartment or through the machine. So all that stuff, and we can't just pack everything up and put it in my closet and say, we'll come back tomorrow and count. It has to be all counted that night. That's a big misconception when people watch the news and they see, county run elections are probably a little bit different. I don't know much about them, but that's usually where you see things, where people are bringing tubs of ballots into a big warehouse. That does not happen with your town. Your town, they are counted at the polls. It is a law. It is required. And however long it takes you, that's how long it takes you. And then once everything is accounted for, it gets sealed and it gets put in, with a seal with numbers and everything. We're fortunate here because we vote here and everything gets stored. I have a closet that I'm the only one that has the key for. If I think that there's going to be a recount or anything, I seal that door up with my signature and the town seal, so I make sure that nobody's broken into it. But I know other communities that have to travel from, say, a school or something, the police escort them. I mean, everything is, I'd like to say that every single town clerk, I can't speak for, but I know the ones that I know, anybody that ever, we're all pretty honest, and we're all honest. I'm not going to say pretty honest. We are all honest, and it's something we take pride in, running our elections and making sure that we're following the letter of the law.
She is Dawn Varley. She is the town clerk in Whitman. Dawn, we want to thank you so much for taking time out of your first day of voting, in-person voting. And we thank you, early voting, that is, and we thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. I hope you come on out and vote, and I'd like to thank my workers too, my poll workers and stuff like that. And have a good day, everybody. How's that?
You got it this year.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate you doing this.
You got it. And we want to thank you for tuning into a program like this, Municipal Focus. And until our next program, we thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned.